The champagne flute shattered against the stone terrace of the vineyard estate, spraying golden fizz like shrapnel across the white linen tables as guests gasped in unison. She's gone. Evelyn's bolted, left me at the altar like some bad rom-com punchline. I choked out to my best man, my voice cracking under the weight of 200 staring eyes, the Napa Valley sun mocking me with its relentless cheer. In that instant, as the string quartet faltered into awkward silence, I realized my nightmare wasn't the runaway bride. It was the lifetime sentence her family had just slapped on me with her identical twin sister waiting in the wings. I never wanted this wedding. Hell, I never wanted her. Evelyn Hargrove was the epitome of old California money. Blonde waves cascading like a shampoo ad, eyes the color of Pacific fog, and a laugh that could disarm a room full of venture capitalists. We met at Stanford, her in poli-sci, me grinding through an MBA because my dad insisted it was the only path to real success. She was the kind of girl who made headlines for her charity galas, and I was the guy who nodded along, pretending my heart wasn't screaming for someone else entirely. By senior year, our relationship was less romance and more merger. The Hargroves owned half the wine country. My family peddled tech startups in Silicon Valley. Marrying Evelyn was supposed to seal the deal, blend our worlds into some untouchable dynasty. But I was lying to everyone, most of all myself. Late nights in the library, I'd steal glances at Alex, the barista at the campus coffee cart, tousled dark hair, inked forearms peeking from rolled sleeves, that easy grin that made my stomach flip like I'd chugged an espresso shot. He was out and proud, stickers on his laptop proclaiming "Love wins" and quoting Audre Lorde. We'd chat about everything from indie bands to the hypocrisy of frat row homophobia, his voice wrapping around me like a secret I couldn't confess. One rainy afternoon, after Evelyn ditched me for a sorority mixer, Alex slid me a free latte with a wink. For the guy who looks like he needs a plot twist, I laughed it off, but that night, alone in my dorm, I let myself imagine what it would be like to kiss him instead of her. Fast forward 4 years, and here I was, 32 and trapped in a tux that felt like a straitjacket. The wedding was Hargrove perfection. A sprawling estate in Napa, vines heavy with Cabernet grapes stretching to the horizon, fairy lights strung like stars against the oak-dotted hills. Guests in pastel sundresses and linen suits milled about, toasting to the happy couple with flutes of '98 vintage. My mom, ever the fixer, had flown in from Seattle, her Botox smile unwavering as she adjusted my boutonniere. Dad was schmoozing senators, sealing deals over oysters on the half-shell. Evelyn's parents, Richard and Margot, presided like royalty. Him with his silver fox mane and boardroom growl, her with pearls that screamed old money. The ceremony was set for sunset, the archway a bower of roses and ivy framing the valley's golden glow. I stood there, palms slick, heart hammering not from nerves but from the lie gnawing at my gut. Where was she? The officiant fidgeted, checking his watch. Whispers rippled. Cold feet. Family drama? Then, the bridesmaids burst from the bridal suite. Evelyn's maid of honor. Her cousin Lila, white-faced and stammering. She's not there. Her dress is on the floor, phone smashed. A note saying she's done playing pretend. Chaos erupted. Margot collapsed into a wicker chair, fanning herself with the program, while Richard barked orders into his cell. Find her! Private jet to LA now. Guests clustered like vultures, phones out for the scandal feed. My best man, Jake, straight as an arrow loyal to a fault, clapped my shoulder. Dude, you okay? This is insane. I nodded numbly, but inside, a treacherous spark ignited. Freedom. For one wild second, I pictured bolting too, driving my rented Mustang down Highway 29 until the vines blurred into possibility. Until him. But freedom's a luxury for men like me, sons of ambition, pawns in legacies. Richard cornered me by the tasting room, his grip like iron on my elbow. Listen, son. This merger, it's bigger than one girl's whims. We've sunk millions into the joint venture. Your app for Vineyard Analytics, our labels in every Whole Foods from here to New York. Evelyn's flighty always has been. But Lila, he paused, eyes narrowing. Lila Hargrove, Evelyn's twin, identical down to the freckle on her left cheekbone. Quieter, sharper, the responsible one who'd shadowed our engagement like a ghost, handling RSVPs and vendor calls while her sister partied. She's willing, always has been. Marry her, keep the timeline. Or we walk, and your family's empire crumbles. I stared at him, the valley's breeze carrying the tang of fermenting grapes, a reminder of rot beneath the shine. Marry Lila? The woman who'd once confided over wine that she envied Evelyn's fire, that she felt like the spare tire in her own life. We'd bonded awkwardly at family dinners, trading eye rolls over Richard's monologues. She knew things, glimpses of my distance, my late nights working. But this? It was madness. Yet, as Margot joined us, dabbing tears with a monogrammed hanky, her voice steel, Lila's in the guest cottage, dress ready. Guests are family, Ethan. We don't air laundry, we mend it. The hook sank deeper. Jake pulled me aside. Say no, man. This ain't right. But Dad's text buzzed. Son, Hargroves are key to Series B. Don't blow it. Mom's call, think of us, honey. Stability first. And me? The closet I'd built brick by brick. Fearing disownment. Exile from the network that defined me. Creaked open just enough to whisper coward. So I nodded. The quartet struck up again. A jaunty Mendelssohn march twisted into farce. Lila emerged, ethereal in Evelyn's gown. Veil shadowing eyes that mirrored her sister's but held a quiet storm. We exchanged vows under that arch. Rings sliding on like shackles. Guests applauding as if none of it had happened. To them, it was a quirky anecdote for the bar. To me, it was surrender. The reception blurred into forced revelry. Cake cut with a saber, dances under lanterns swaying in the breeze. Lila and I posed for photos, her hand cool in mine, whispering, I'm sorry, Ethan. This wasn't your fault. I squeezed back, murmuring, ours now. But my mind wandered to the valet lot, to the open road, as fireworks cracked over the hills, painting the sky in crimson and gold. I slipped away for air, wandering the gravel paths lined with gnarled vines. That's when I saw him. He was leaning against a weathered barn, silhouetted against the last light, a sketchpad in one hand, charcoal in the other. Mid-30s, maybe, with sun-kissed skin and hair the color of aged oak, tied back in a loose ponytail. Faded jeans hugged his legs, a flannel shirt unbuttoned over a white tee that clung just enough to hint at the lean muscle beneath. He looked up, those hazel eyes catching the firework glow, and smiled. Not pitying, not curious, but knowing. Rough night, he called, voice like gravel wrapped in honey, laced with that easy California drawl. I froze, champagne buzz warring with adrenaline. You could say that. Saw the show. He chuckled, closing the pad to reveal a half-finished Vine sketch, twisting and alive. From the shadows. Name's Theo. Local, run the artists' co-op down in Yountville. Heard the crash. Thought it was a wine barrel exploding. I laughed, surprising myself. The sound raw and real after hours of charade. Ethan. Groom, or whatever this makes me now. We talked then, words tumbling like the creek nearby. About Napa's hidden trails, how the soil here held secrets older than any label. He didn't pry about the wedding, but his gaze lingered, seeing the fracture lines I hid from everyone. By the time Lila texted, "Where are you? Fireworks ending." I'd lingered too long, Theo's laugh echoing in my chest like a promise. "Come by the co-op tomorrow," he said, scribbling his number on a torn sketch page. "We do life drawing, nude models, bad coffee. Might unstick whatever's got you twisted." His wink was playful, but the heat in it? Undeniable. I pocketed the paper, heart racing as I rejoined the party, Lila's arm linking mine like an anchor. That night, in the bridal suite with its four-poster bed and rose-petal chaos, we didn't consummate anything. She curled on her side, whispering, "We'll figure it out." And I stared at the ceiling, Theo's number burning a hole in my soul. The morning after broke crisp and unforgiving, Napa's fog lifting like a veil to reveal the valley in sharp relief. Vines etched against the sky, the estate humming with hungover staff clearing confetti. Lila and I played the part. Breakfast on the terrace, mimosas fizzing innocently, Margot cooing over our resilient love. But beneath the small talk about honeymoon plans, a week here, tasting rooms and hot air balloons, tension coiled like a spring. She caught me glancing at my phone, Theo's text unread. Co-op at noon. Bring your sketchy side. Old friend? She asked, voice light but eyes probing. I shrugged it off. Just Jake, checking in. And excused myself for a walk, guilt twisting sharper than the lie. The drive to Yountville wound through sun-dappled lanes, my rented convertible top-down, wind whipping away the tuxedo's starch. Theo's co-op was a converted warehouse off Washington Street, graffiti murals splashing color on brick walls, the air thick with turpentine and fresh ground beans. Inside, easels ringed a central platform where a model, a wiry guy in his 20s, all angles and quiet confidence, struck a pose under soft spots. Theo waved from a stool, paint-splattered apron over his flannel. New blood. Grab a board. I hesitated, then dove in, charcoal smudging my fingers as I traced the model's form. Not clinical, but alive, the curve of a shoulder evoking vulnerability I'd buried. We broke for lunch on the loading dock, sandwiches from a food truck, legs dangling over the edge. Theo shared bits of himself. Grew up in Oakland, foster kid bouncing homes until art school in San Francisco. Found my tribe here, he said, gesturing to the co-op's chaos. Sculptors hammering, potters spinning clay. Napa's got that illusion of perfection, but dig deeper? It's messy, like wine. Needs time, pressure, a little heartbreak to get good. His knee brushed mine, accidental on purpose, and I didn't pull away. Instead, I confessed fragments. The forced merger, Evelyn's bolt, Lila's reluctant yes. Feels like I'm drowning in someone else's script. He nodded, no judgment, just that steady gaze. Then rewrite it. Start small. Ditch the itinerary, hit the backroads with me. By afternoon, we were gone. My phone silenced, Lila's texts piling up unread. Theo drove a battered pickup, radio crooning Springsteen as we veered onto a dirt trail snaking into the hills. We hiked a forgotten loop, wild mustard blooming yellow underfoot, the air humming with bees. At a overlook, valley sprawling below like a quilt of green and gold. He pulled a flask, bourbon, smooth and illicit. To Runaways, he toasted, clinking my water bottle. Our shoulders touched, and in that suspended breath, I leaned in, not thinking, just needing. His lips met mine, tentative then fierce, tasting of oak and honesty. The world narrowed to his hand on my neck, the valley's whisper urging yes. Back at the estate by dusk, I was alight, guilty and greedy. Lila waited on the porch swing, a glass of Chardonnay in hand, her twin resemblance eerie in the twilight. Went well? She asked, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. I mumbled about clearing my head, hating the evasion. Dinner was family only, Richard grilling steaks, Margot dissecting Evelyn's episode, like a board report. Turns out, she'd fled to Big Sur with a yoga instructor, some scandalous fling that could tank Hargrove stock. Lila's stepping up? Richard boomed, clapping my back. Smart move, son. Lila excused herself early, and later, in bed, she turned away again, the space between us widening like a fault line. The next days blurred into stolen symmetry. Mornings with Lila, dutiful hikes and winery tours, her chatter about sustainable farming masking the strain. Afternoons with Theo, where paint and paths stripped me bare. We'd meet at odd spots, a hidden grotto by the Russian River, where he'd sketch me lounging on sun-warmed rocks, shirt off, his eyes devouring more than lines, or a midnight drive to Mount St. Helena, stars pricking the ink-black sky as we talked futures. What if you just left? He'd murmur, fingers tracing my palm. Packed a bag, started over. Art, tech, whatever lights you up, not them. I'd laugh it off, but the seed took root, warring with duty's thorns. Lila noticed, subtly at first, extra questions about my solo adventures. A borrowed scarf that smelled faintly of Theo's cologne. One evening, post-tasting at a boutique Chardonnay house. She cornered me in the barrel room, dim light filtering through oak slats. Ethan, talk to me. This marriage is a bandage on a bullet wound. I see how you look at the horizon, like you're already gone. Her voice broke, vulnerability cracking the twin facade. I froze, words failing. She wasn't Evelyn's shadow. She was her own storm, brilliant and bruised by the same expectations that chained me. I care for you, she whispered, stepping closer, her hand on my chest. But not like that. And I don't think you do either. The confession hung, raw and relieving. We hugged then, sibling-like, tears mingling with the scent of fermenting yeast. Friends? She asked. Allies, I replied. It was the first honest breath I'd taken in years. But honesty has teeth. That night, Jake called drunk, spilling, Dude, saw you with that artist guy in town. Town's talking, Hargrove whispers. Panic surged. By morning, Richard knew. He summoned me to his study, a wood-paneled shrine to power. Decanters of scotch, photos of Evelyn, pre-Runaway, beaming. Leverage, Ethan. That's what this is. You think I built an empire on feelings? Lila's pregnant. Miscarriage risk if stress hits. And your little detour? It ends or the deal dies. Your parents? Cut off. Betrayal landed like a gut punch. Not just his threat, but the lie about Lila. She hadn't mentioned it. Eyes wide when I confronted her later. Dad's twisting it. I lost the baby months ago before all this. He's desperate to lock you in. Fury boiled, but so did fear. Theo texted, Missed you today. Everything okay? I typed busy, deleted, typed meet me now. We collided at the co-op after hours. His arms pulling me into shadows where canvases loomed like witnesses. What's wrong? He demanded, cupping my face. I spilled it all, the threats, the closet, the crumbling facade. He kissed me then, urgent and anchoring. Then fight. With me. But fighting meant fallout. Margot overheard a call. Mine to my dad, pleading for backup, and the dam broke. She confronted Lila in hysterics. You're complicit, letting him stray with that. Lila defended me, voice rising. He's gay, Mom. We both knew, Evelyn too. This farce ends now. Richard exploded, cutting Lila's trust fund on the spot, vowing to bury my startup in lawsuits. Guests who'd lingered for post-wedding vibes scattered. Gossip fueling tabloid fire. Hargrove heirloom wedding turned scandal. Twin switch and secret affair? Climax crashed on the fifth night. A storm rolling in from the coast. Thunder rumbling like judgment. I drove to Theo's cabin on the valley's edge. A A-frame tucked in redwoods. Fairy lights strung against the rain. He opened the door soaked, pulling me inside to a fire crackling. Jazz vinyl spinning low. Stay, he said, no question. We curled on the rug, his head on my chest. And for hours, it was sanctuary. Stories swapped, dreams voiced. I'd follow you anywhere, he whispered, fingers lacing mine. San Francisco? Portland? Hell, Paris if you want. Dawn crept in, gray and promising, but my phone shattered it. Jake's voice, frantic. Ethan, Richard's team raided your office. Servers seized. And Lila, she's in the hospital. Stress collapse. Guilt propelled me back. Tires hydroplaning through downpour. At the clinic in St. Helena, Lila lay pale but fierce, for dripping, Margot hovering like a gargoyle. You did this, she hissed. Richard loomed in the hall, smug. Leverage works. But Lila, when we were alone, gripped my hand. Go, live your truth. I'll handle them. Divorce papers drawn. Tears stung. She'd become my mirror, reflecting the courage I lacked. I kissed her forehead, sibling vow sealed. The valley blurred as I raced to Theo, rain sheeting the windshield like absolution. He was packing, duffels by the door, eyes shadowed. Heard the news. If you need space. No. I crashed into him, kissed desperate. With me. Always. We fled that afternoon, Mustang loaded, Napa shrinking in the rearview. Vines a green farewell, the runaway bride's ghost finally laid. Hours later, On a coastal pullout, Pacific crashing below, we stopped. Theo pulled a ring from his pocket. Simple silver, etched with vines. Not a proposal. Promise. When you're ready. I slipped it on, heart full. The ocean's roar drowning doubt. Months later, from our tiny loft in Oakland, my startup salvaged by indie investors, Theo's murals gracing cafes. Lila visited. Divorced, unburdened. She hugged us both. Twins stick together. Even the borrowed kind. Evelyn resurfaced too. Emails from Big Sir. Sorry for the mess. Proud of you. Richard's empire wobbled, but Margot softened, sending a case of '98 vintage with a note. To new beginnings. It wasn't tidy. Lawsuits lingered, family fractures healed slow. But in the mess, we found grace. Love, it turns out, isn't a merger. It's the courage to shatter the glass and dance in the shards. The days stretched into a fragile rhythm, each one a tightrope between facade and fire. Mornings dawned with Lila's quiet optimism. We'd linger over coffee on the estate's veranda, steam rising like unspoken confessions, discussing everything from the valley's microclimates to her secret dream of opening a nonprofit for at-risk youth. Evelyn always got the spotlight, she'd say, stirring honey into her mug. But I want the real work, the kind that changes lives, not headlines. Her words mirrored my own buried aspirations. Coding apps not for profit margins, but for connection, perhaps a platform linking queer artists with mentors. We'd laugh about it, plotting hypotheticals, but the undercurrent pulled. She saw my distractions, the way my eyes drifted to the horizon where Theo's world beckoned. One afternoon, after a guided tour at Sterling Vineyards, tram gliding over trellises, air heady with ferment, Lila linked her arm in mine as we descended. You're glowing when you think no one's watching, she murmured, her veil-long hair catching the breeze. Is it the wine or? I faltered, the lie bitter on my tongue. Just processing. She stopped, turning to face me, those fog-gray eyes piercing. Ethan, I ran numbers last night, Hargrove projections if the merger tanks. It's bad, but survivable. For all of us. Her hand squeezed mine, not as wife, but conspirator. In that moment, gratitude swelled. She'd become my ally in this scripted hell, her own heart collateral in the family game. But Theo was the spark, the illicit pulse. Our second meet was at the co-op's life drawing again. But this time I arrived early, nerves jangling like loose change. He greeted me with a brush of knuckles down my arm, missed that face, and handed me charcoal, our fingers lingering. The model that day was a woman, all soft curves and defiant poise, but my lines veered abstract, strokes bold where Theo's were fluid. During break, we escaped to the alley behind. Sharing a smoke he rolled from a tin, the cherry glowing like a secret. You're good, he said, exhaling slow, raw, like you've got stories clawing out. I confessed more then. The Stanford glances, the closet's weight, how Evelyn's proposal felt like a guillotine. He listened, head tilted. Then, art's therapy, man, or rebellion. Pick your poison. We drove after, his truck rumbling to a secluded spot off Silverado Trail. A meadow ringed by eucalyptus, wildflowers nodding in the heat. He spread a blanket, unpacked cheese and figs from a local market. But it was the easel he unpacked that undid me. Your turn to pose, he grinned, and I did, shirt unbuttoned, leaning against a tree, the sun dappling skin I'd hidden for years. His eyes on me felt like absolution, pencil scratching a portrait not of perfection, but truth. When he showed me later, the face staring back was mine, vulnerable, alive, no mask. See? That's you, he said, voice low. We kissed there, slow and deepening, the meadow holding our breath. His hands mapped my back, reverent, and for the first time desire wasn't shame. It was home. Guilt shadowed the high. Back at the estate, Lila waited with takeout tie, candles flickering on the patio to mimic romance. Good day? She asked, passing pad CEW. I nodded, too effusive, and she arched a brow. You taste like adventure. We talked late, her opening up about twin burdens. Evelyn's chaos forcing her into the fixer role. Their childhoods a blur of mirrored bedrooms and Margot's, one for show, one for substance whispers. I thought marriage would be my escape, she admitted, wineglass cradled. But it's just another stage. I reached for her hand, platonic anchor. Then we rewrite the script together. She smiled, sad sweet, and in bed that night, the space between us felt less chasm, more bridge. The betrayal brewed slow like a fine Pinot reducing. Jake visited midweek, flying in from San Jose with craft beers and bro hugs, crashing the guest cabana. Over grill-smoked ribs, he grilled me. Marriage by shotgun? Bro, you're pale as the bride's ghost. I deflected with Napa trivia, but his eyes narrowed at my phone's glow. Theo's meme about vineyard vampires. Who's the ghost texter? Laughing it off failed. Jake, loyal but loose-lipped, cornered me later by the pool. Saw you two in Yountville yesterday, coffee run, all smiles and touches. If Richard finds out. Warning bells clanged. It's nothing, I lied, but the seed of exposure took. Richard's summons came Thursday, post a business lunch, where he dangled Series B bait. In his study, decanters glinting like accusations, he slid photos across the desk. Grainy shots from a PI. Me and Theo at the meadow, blurred but unmistakable. Leverage Ethan. Lila's delicate. Early pregnancy scare last month. Docs say stress could end it. Your dalliance? Stops or we pull funding. Your folks lose the house in Bellevue. The room spun. Pregnancy? Lila hadn't breathed a word. Rage choked me. This is blackmail. But he leaned in, cologne sharp. It's family. Confronting Lila in the herb garden, she wilted among the lavender. It was early Ethan, a blip. But Dad, he's weaponizing it to chain us. Tears tracked her cheeks. She wasn't complicit, just collateral. I told him no more games, but he's unraveling. We hugged fierce. Her whisper, protect yourself first. But self was splintered. Theo met me at the river that evening, water rushing like my pulse. I spilled the photos, the threats, and he pulled me close, rain starting to patter leaves. Then expose it all, or run with me. His kiss was lifeline, but fear rooted me. The storm hit Friday, literal and lethal. Thunder rolled as I drove to the co-op, wipers slashing. Theo was packing exhibits, boxes of canvases, when I burst in. We can't. Words died. Jake's call cut through. Ethan. Richard's men at your Airbnb. Search warrant for embezzlement. And Lila's en route to our panic attack, they say. Chaos. I raced to the hospital, corridors sterile and echoing. Margot pacing like a caged cat. Your fault, she spat. Lila, hooked to monitors, squeezed my hand. Divorce me. Free us both. Richard waited outside, victorious leer. Sign the retraction. End the affair, or lose everything. Climax crested in the parking lot. Rain sheeting as Theo arrived, truck idling. Get in, he yelled over the roar. I hesitated. Lila's plea, family fallout, but the lie's weight snapped. I slid beside him and we peeled out, valley lights blurring to streaks. At his cabin, fire roaring, we collapsed, soaked and shaking. I choose this, I gasped, his arms my harbor. Dawn brought clarity. Calls to lawyers, emails to investors. Lila texted, go. I'll testify, truth wins. Evelyn chimed, knew you'd bolt right. Love ya. The road unspooled like a confession. Highway 29 curving south through the valley's embrace. Each mile shedding Napa's gilded chains. Theo drove, one hand on the wheel, the other tracing idle patterns on my thigh. Comfort, not conquest. A silent vow amid the engine's hum. We didn't talk much at first. Words felt too small for the rupture. Instead, the radio filled the silence with Lucinda Williams' gravel heart ballads, her lyrics about reckless love mirroring our flight. By Calistoga, the tension eased. I cracked a joke about trading tux for Theo's flannel, and he laughed, deep and freeing, pulling over at a roadside stand for peaches sticky with juice. We ate them there. Pits spat into the gravel, sweetness dripping chins as we kissed under a live oak. the world reduced to juice-slick lips and pounding hearts. Oakland welcomed us with urban grit, Theo's contacts hooking a sublet in Temescal, a sunny walk-up above a taqueria, walls begging for his murals. Unpacking was ritual. My laptop beside his easels, Hargrove wine, smuggled contraband. On the shelf next to his sketchpads. Nights blurred into domestic poetry. Him cooking risotto with foraged mushrooms. Me debugging code by candlelight. Our feet tangled under the table. But ghosts lingered. My parents called weekly, voices thawing from frost to fragile. Mom sending care packages of Seattle salmon. Dad muttering about figuring it out with the investors. The lawsuits dragged. Richard's countersuits for breach. My counters for coercion. But indie backers rallied, drawn to the disruptor narrative. Authentic branding. One VC quipped over Zoom, winking at my rainbow pin. Lila's updates anchored the chaos. From a rented cottage in Sonoma, she dove into her nonprofit, Vineyard Voices, mentoring queer and low-income kids in arts and tech. Video calls showed her lighter, freckles sun-kissed from volunteer gigs. Dad's crumbling, she'd report, smirking. Margot's in therapy, actual progress. One weekend, she drove over, arms laden with estate leftovers. Cheeses, jams, a bottle of that damned 98. We picnicked in the hills above the bay, Theo sketching us as a trio. Lila mid-laugh, me with my head on his shoulder. Twins forever? She teased, clinking glasses. Soul siblings, I corrected, and we toasted to fractures mended not with gold, but grit. Betrayal's echo faded slowest. Evelyn resurfaced in drips. A postcard from Big Sur, scrawled found my fire. Yours was always elsewhere. Drink soon? Then a surprise visit, surfboard under arm, blonde waves salt-tousled. She crashed our couch, regaling tales of ashram epiphanies and the instructor, now ex-2 Zen. Over Theo's paella, she grilled him gently. You the one who stole my groom? He grinned, borrowed with interest. By morning, she and Lila reunited in a tearful tangle, the twins' bond reforged in honesty. Family's not blood, Evelyn declared, hugging me goodbye. It's the ones who stay through the storm. Climax's scar tissue formed in quiet ways. A gallery opening for Theo in the Mission, my app demoing live, mapping attendee vibes via subtle polls. Richard appeared uninvited, silver mane impeccable, but eyes hollowed. No tirade, just a stiff handshake, murmur of truce for the girls. Margot followed weeks later, pearls swapped for a simple chain, tea in our kitchen tentative but thawing. I was wrong, she admitted, voice small. Pushed perfection over people. Forgiveness wasn't instant, but it bloomed. Letters exchanged, holidays tentative. The humanistic close unfolded on a Napa return, 6 months post-flight. Lila's launch gala at the old estate, vines heavy again, but now strung with pride flags alongside lanterns. I stood with Theo, his hand in mine, as speakers lauded resilience. Richard watched from the terrace, gnawed grudging but real. Evelyn emceed, quipping about runaway brides and better plots. Lila pulled us aside post-speech. This us is the real merger. As fireworks bloomed once more, Theo whispered, ready for that promise? The ring from the coastal pullout slid on, simple and sure, guests cheering not for charade, but choice. In the end, Napa wasn't escape. It was origin, the soil where roots twisted free. Love, we learned, thrives not in vineyards of expectation, but wild meadows of truth. And in that messy, magnificent American sprawl, from fog-shrouded valleys to foghorn bays, we built our dynasty, one honest heartbeat at a time.